Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to be factoring trinomials, and I'm going to show you the easiest way that I've learned how so far. As long as you've been going along with everything that we've done this week, today's lesson should go pretty good. So what was shown in the last video is exactly how I was taught whenever I was in school. But whenever you learn it that way, it's a bit difficult to figure out how to get this coefficient or how this number is going to work out whenever you're factoring these things, because maybe you'll be thinking about GCF and things. So the thing I'm going to show you in this video is a graphic organizer that you can use to help you factor trinomials. And a trinomial is something that has three parts. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to underline the coefficient and the term that's by itself. In the last video, I think that they did say it, but whatever is in front of x squared is going to be our a term. A is going to be equal to whatever is multiplying x squared. B is going to be equal to whatever is in front of x. And C is the constant term that's just by itself. So we're going to need to label all three of those things, just the coefficients and the constant term, as A, B, and C. Then we're going to draw an x. And this is the same type of x that we've been using in the warm-up. So we're going to put on the top. On the top is going to be a times c. And what's on the bottom is going to be b. Using this chart, we're going to find two numbers. A number we're going to put on the left and a number we're going to put on the right. And those two numbers are going to multiply to make the top, and they're going to add to make the bottom. So let me just draw a second x that doesn't have this. We're going to keep that one there. That's kind of like our formula. We're going to do a times c, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. We're going to write the number for b on the bottom. We want two things that multiply to be 4 and add to be 5. Something that multiplies to be 4 and adds to be 5 could be 2 and 2. 2 and 2 multiply to be 4, but there is no way that we can add these together to be 5. So let's come up with something else that multiplies to be 4, like 1 and 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. So these are my factors. But there's one more thing we have to do. The last thing you have to do is you have to divide by a. Whatever number you picked, after you make sure that it works, you're going to divide it by whatever a was, and a is 2. The 1/2 we're going to leave as a fraction, and the 4/2 we're going to change to be the number 2. Once you have that part simplified, we're just going to write it in a parentheses with x. X, and our first one is going to be whatever we wrote on the left. That's going to be written in the first parentheses. That's a positive 1/2. And our second term is going to be what was on the right, and we're going to have a positive 2. And that's our answer. Let's do it again. We're going to draw the x. We're going to label a, b, but b is a negative number this time, and c is also a negative number. If we look up here, a times c goes on the top, b gets written on the bottom, and now we want numbers that multiply to be negative 36 and add to be negative 5. Multiply to be negative 36, that could be like a 6 and a 6, but there's no way that you can add 6's together to get the number 5. So we're going to pick something else, maybe 12 and 3. So then once you have your numbers, you can play around with the signs. You can make them negative, so that way 12 times negative 3 makes negative 36, but 12 plus negative 3 will not make that negative 5 on the bottom. You could make the left side negative. They multiply to be negative 36. These ones would add to be negative 9, which is not the number we're looking for, so we're going to have to pick a different factor. Let's try 9 and 4. If I make the 9 negative, then whenever I multiply these two numbers, they will make negative 36, and whenever I add these two numbers, I will get negative 5. So those are my factors. the last thing you have to do is divide those by a. I would recommend that you write the formula each time in today's lesson, and that'll make you definitely remember it. There's no point in learning a formula if you're going to forget how to use it or forget what goes where. So you need repetition so that it gets stuck in your brain of what's going to go where in this. -9 divided by 3 simplifies to be -3, and the other one can stay as a fraction. So here we're going to have x minus 3. We're going to write the left number as one of the factors, and 4 over 3 as the second factor. X plus 4/3. That's our factored form of 3x squared minus 5x minus 12. We'll go with number 9. A times c goes on top, b on the bottom, a number divided by a, and a number divided by a. Let's just label a is 3, b is 1, c is -2, and this is the x that we're going to fill in. 3 times -2 is -6. b is 1. We want things that multiply to be -6, like -3 and 2. Okay, so -3 plus 2 does not make +1. That would make a -1. So what if I change this 3 to be positive and the 2 to be negative? These still have different signs, so when you multiply 3 with -2, you'll get the -6, and if you add these two, that's the same as 3 minus 2 to get 1. Lastly, divide by a. And the right side does not simplify, so the left factor is x plus 1. The second factor is x minus 2/3. With what's coming up next, what's coming after spring break, the big picture of factoring these things, the way that I just showed you is the most important way to factor that you need to know. But there is another way that these factors can be written, and if you're doing a multiple choice test, you need to know this way also. So I guess I'll do 2 examples. First, let's just label A, B, and C. Then we're going to do A times C on top, and we're going to do 15 for that. B on the bottom, which is -16. This one's easy. Things that multiply to be 15, 1 and 15. If I want them to add to be -16, then I can make them both negative. Finally, divide by a and simplify whichever one can be simplified. Then, write your factor the same way you did before. X minus 1/5, x minus 3. The only difference between that and what we're about to change it to is the way that it looks. Instead of writing x minus 1/5, we're going to manipulate those numbers so that there is no longer a fraction. If instead of having this 5 divide, if I get rid of the 5 from the denominator, I can move it as multiplying x. I can change it to be 5x minus 1. The only difference is instead of having this 5 divide, we're going to have the 5 multiply. And these two things are equivalent because we just moved it within the same parentheses. And there's our new answer. It's just instead of having 1/5, we're doing 5x. For this third 9 weeks, this is probably how you'll see your answers be in multiple choice. You won't see the fractions because they decided not to have fractions this 9 weeks, but in the fourth 9 weeks, you will need to know the fractional answer. Let's do one last one together just so that we can understand that fraction part. We're going to do A times C. A is 2, B is 11, C is 15. 2 times 15 is 30. B goes on the bottom, which is the number 11. Things that multiply to be 30. That's 10 and 3. But there's no way that 10 and 3 can combine to make 11. It's 6 and 5. And 6 plus 5 does make 11. So these are our factors. We just need to divide them by a. This one reduces to be 3. That one stays as a fraction for now. So we have x plus 3 times x plus 5 over 2. And then we're going to change it. Not the first one because there was no fraction there. But this second term is going to be, instead of dividing by 2, we're going to multiply by 2. And I'm going to have to move this. We're going to multiply by 2 and keep the 5 right there. Done.